Welcome to Good Screenwriting. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today we're going to talk about Avatar. You remember Avatar? A little movie that came out back in 2009. Became the highest grossing movie of all time, made almost $3 billion. And there's going to be sequels. There are going to be sequels. There are going to be like 4 Avatar sequels. It's been a while. It's 2017 now. We haven't seen those sequels. I'm sure they're coming. They've put a lot of effort into it. It's going to come like a mad rush. Are the sequels going to do as well as the first one? Probably not. I think that the kind of excitement has worn off, possibly. Of course, I don't know how much hype there was before this movie came out. I know there was a lot of talk about how the visual effects were going to be really revolutionary and how James Cameron was going to do something we'd never seen before. And I remember when I saw this movie the first time, I was kind of underwhelmed by it just because what I was expecting, what James Cameron said was going to happen was that it was going to be 100% CGI and it would have photorealistic humans. All right? So even the humans would have been computer animated, but we wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Now, in the end, he didn't actually achieve that goal. He had to shoot some real stuff with real people. So it wound up just being kind of, another visual effects movie. That being said, it looks beautiful. A lot of people will attribute the success of the film to the visual effects. I don't know if I necessarily would. I mean, there's definitely a degree of spectacle to it. But I think that you don't get to $3 billion or almost $3 billion worldwide on spectacle alone. I think that James Cameron described it as a sharing experience, that anyone who went to go see it had a powerful emotional response to it, kind of like with Titanic, and went again and brought their friends and wanted to share the experience with other people. And that it was like this amazing emotional experience, not just eye candy. All right? So it's not like one of those blockbusters where it's got no substance. It had substance, but it also had the spectacle. All right? So what do I think about this movie? Let's start with some of the things that could have been better. I think that the allegory of the Na'vi, basically Na'vi equals Native American. All right, there's not really much room for interpretation in that metaphor. I'm thinking of J.R.R. Tolkien with Lord of the Rings, how he said that he hates allegory. He prefers applicability, meaning the One Ring from Lord of the Rings doesn't equal the nuclear bomb in real life. It may be applicable. In other words, you can take that metaphor and say, oh, it's kind of like this thing in real life. Or you can compare it to something else. I don't think this movie has applicability. I think it has allegory, meaning it's not like, oh, it could mean this or it could mean that. No, the Na'vi are Native Americans. It's pretty simple. Unobtainium equals gold. The corporation that's trying to drive them out equals the colonists who came over to America. All right? There's not a lot of room for interpretation here. So the the allegory is pretty firmly set in stone, and I think that it went a little too far, where it's like, okay, we get it. They're Native Americans. The white people are going in and driving them out of their homes. Not that that's not an important story to tell. I just think that they could have used that as a jumping off point to do something more original. That being said, this movie has way more strengths about it than flaws. Way more positives than negatives. So, what do I like about this movie? The story is actually really well constructed. The plot is well constructed. It's got this thing that I call an emotional roller coaster, and if you've listened to my audio course, my free audio course, which you can find in the description below, then you know that the emotional roller coaster in this movie is that at the end of Act One, he's worse off than when he started. Okay, so he starts out at kind of a middle average point emotionally because his brothers just died, and he's and Sam Worthington's character, Jake Sully, is confined to a wheelchair, and there's nothing inherently wrong with someone, being in a wheelchair, except that Jake actually doesn't like being in a wheelchair. He wants to get his legs back. So that's not meant to be a slight against people with handicaps. The character himself does not like being in a wheelchair and wants to get his legs back because I think he got shot in the spine when he was a Marine. So he's okay. I mean, his brother just died, and he's paralyzed from the waist down. He's kind of lost. He doesn't really understand his place in the world. However, and that might seem pretty bad, by the end of Act 1, he's lost in the jungle. He's being hunted by these dangerous creatures and stuff like that, and he's a little bit worse off than where he started. All right, so he goes from okay to bad, and then in the middle of the movie, he hits a point where he's actually good, so he goes up even higher, and that's when he gets together with Neytiri, and he's become one of the people. Then he hits rock bottom. Then he's terrible at the end of Act 2, which is when Home Tree gets destroyed, and he's banished from the Na'vi people, and he's really got no allies anywhere. And then it ends on the highest note of all, which is when he's great, which is when he's defeated Quaritch and the other people from the corporation, and he officially joins the Na'vi people permanently when he transfers his mind into the body of his avatar. So it's got that great structure. It's got ups and downs. It brings you to the height of imagination and to the depths of human atrocity, and it's really powerful in that way. It's not afraid to go dark, but then it's not afraid to have a happy ending. So the structure is really strong. And also, just like Titanic, the first half of the movie is a love story, and the second half is an action movie. So that's a great way to bring men and women and adults and children into it, which is the first half, you really care about the characters, and there's a little bit of a romance there and some comedy. Second half, it's war, it's action, it's excitement. So you bring those two halves together, and it's exactly like Titanic, where the first half was a love story, and the second half was a disaster movie. And that's how you get the men and the women to go see it, because it's plenty of adrenaline and excitement and adventure, but there's also a softer side to it, and that's why I think, couples like to go see this movie, families like to go see this movie, and I've seen it several times, and it's not my favorite movie that I've ever seen, and I won't even say that I love it, but I like it, and there's a lot to learn from it. So I watch it anytime I want to be inspired. Not that I want to copy it in my own writing, but that there's something to this movie. There's something magical about this movie, and something that can capture the imagination. And that's what I would like to achieve in my own writing. And it's so high up there that I figure, why not shoot for the best? Why not shoot for, the world's favorite movie? Okay? Now, some of you might be debating that a little bit, and a movie like this, um, is going to have its detractors, meaning any kind of wildly popular thing is going to have a minority group who, not like a racial minority or anything like that, but a smaller portion of the population who doesn't like it and is very vocal about the fact that they don't like it. If you're part of that group, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just recognize the fact that you are in the minority. Okay, I believe something like 85% of people who saw this movie liked it, according to Rotten Tomatoes, give or take a few percentage points. So when a movie makes almost $3 billion and about 85% of the people who rate it on Rotten Tomatoes like it, it's got something to it. You have something, even if you don't like this movie, you can learn something from it if you're a writer. So I would urge you to take a closer look at it. And if you've gone through my if you've gone through my audio course, How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Avatar, that's great. Go through it a couple more times and really just let this sink in. Watch the movie by itself. Watch it with the commentary, with How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Avatar playing in the background. Listen to How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Avatar on its own while you're driving, while you go to work, while you're working out. But it's free. My audio course, How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Avatar, is free. It's in the description box right below this video. Check it out. See what I'm all about. It's basically a lot like this, except I go way more in depth and dive into the actual mechanics and techniques of how the screenplay of Avatar is built. So I think it's worth your time. So, and again, if you've already been through it, go through it a couple more times and really let it sink in. See what you can learn and see how you can apply it to your own writing. All right? So, what do you think? Do you think this movie is totally overrated, or can you see the positive qualities in it? Do you have the same experience that I have when I'm watching it, or does it affect you in a different way? Let me know in the comments below. This is Good Screenwriting, and I'm Trevor Meyer. See you next time.